Thank you, Lord. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we are live. Hi, Facebook world.
Hello.
How are you? Hello out there in Facebook land. Yeah, I'll wait for some people to get on. But as you see who I have over here, if I can point. Where's your finger, Seth? Let me see. Put it up. Boom. See that happening? Yeah. Yeah. We have Seth Dahl with us. Yeah. Say hi, Seth.
Hello, everybody. Hope all of you are well and doing good during this whole lockdown quarantine thing. But it's good to be with all of you. Can't wait to see where we go, and just fun to join you. So
Come on.
welcome.
Yeah. Tell them where you're saying hi from.
I am just outside Austin, Texas now. My family and I moved here 4 months ago, right before everything went crazy. And so we're happy to be locked down with a large yard so the kids can play outside and not in a neighborhood like we were in before. But we're in just outside Austin, Texas now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Come on. And now you transferred from for those of you that don't know Seth, Seth was at Bethel and Redding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you bring us into a little bit of that? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So I went to Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry 2006, 7, and 8, and then came on staff. I did children's outreach, sidewalk Sunday school stuff for kids in the neighborhoods. We built that. Then I became children's pastor. So for 10 years, I was on staff first I started with the homeless ministry too. So I did all the homeless ministry, homeless outreach, did children's outreach and children's pastor, total of 10 years or so. And then we felt like God called us to LA. So we moved to LA and was working with Che On there and H-Rock and HIM and those guys who you guys are also connected to as well. So was there for 2 years and then really felt like God moved us to Bethel, Austin. So we're back with Bethel, but not Bethel Redding, Bethel Austin. And so we're just serving here, helping kind of wherever they need and just, running together with those guys. So it's been really fun the last few months.
I'm excited to see what God does with you there, I want to share how I met you, how I know you. And so I met you through Georgian and Winnie Banoff. And so you came to the school and you taught at our school. Now you are a favorite with Global Celebration. Georgian and Winnie, I was talking to Mama Winnie about you, and she was so excited that you were coming on. And she was like, Seth is such a son, And so I was so excited to have you on. And I was listening yesterday to an interview that you had done with Aaron Horton.
Yeah.
But and she said the same thing. She said that you were one of our favorites. You're the favorite. And and so I remember hearing a testimony of you said that maybe one of the children's pastor when you were at Bethel, they got chosen to speak to the whole group, you know what I mean? And I know that Lauren, your wife, got picked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but guess who's getting picked now? We love you, Lauren, but we pick you all the time, Seth.
Yes, come on.
We pick you all the time.
She's a good preacher too. She doesn't do it as often.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to share something with you. I didn't tell you earlier. Because I wanted it to be live and I wanted you to hear it. Well, I was listening to your interview. I was listening to your interview with Aaron, and you were going into how you first met Georgian and how that, you started to encounter Jesus. And then you said he was like preaching, how he preaches, and all of a sudden you made a beeline for him and you tackled him.
Yes, right in the middle of his message.
Do you know I did that to you right in
You
the middle
did?
of your message?
At the last time I was in GCS.
Oh, you froze.
Oh no.
Yeah. There you go. You're back. You're back. Yeah. Out of all the speakers, I've never made a beeline for any of the speakers. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I jumped up. You're preaching your message. I jumped up and I went for you and I just wrapped my arms around your waist and I held on and you put me in a headlock and you preached with me in a headlock.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Oh, I love headlocks. They're so good.
It's an anointed headlock, folks.
It is. It is. Oh, yes. Oh, I'll have to tell you a story about a headlock when you're done. I'll tell you another one I just got last night. Oh man.
Okay.
No.
I
Headlocks are good for people.
loved it.
More
It
people.
was anointed bliss.
Good.
I loved it. Okay. So, where do I start? Oh, Jesus, thanks for who you are. And I love your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I love that it's tangible and it's who you are. It's not like a fancy language in your brain. You're showing the whole world your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And there was something that the Lord was talking to me about you, among many things. I heard you got promoted to head principal in your home.
Yeah, I did. For homeschool. Yes.
How's your administrative assistant?
She's doing good. She's figuring it out. We're trying to do this thing, but without her, I would be in trouble. And yes, we need each other in this homeschool adventure for sure. Oh man.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. Okay, yeah. And so one thing that I noticed, God made me very aware of with you is humility. You walk in such childlike humility, innocence, just believing Jesus. But I saw that you carry a wisdom in humility, a wisdom that makes you fearless. So in humility, I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, if this is true. But yeah, just share who Jesus is with you. Share, people want what you have. People want to be like you, Seth.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like I could go 100 different directions with that, but to take the humility piece and the Georgian piece and all of that, to put them together. One of the verses I've been really on for the last year. I've been talking about it for a long time, longer than that, but I've been on it for the last year, especially just with some stuff that happened in our lives and, just history with God stuff. But it has everything to do with humility, has everything to do with living joyful, has everything to do with living peaceful, everything to do with walking with God. I think it's in Micah. There's a verse that says, "What does the Lord require of you? To walk humbly with your God is a requirement." And so humility is a requirement, but to walk with God. So part of our relationship has to be like, wait, I have to be humble to walk with God. And so, that's a huge part of the gospel, is like, wait, the gospel is such good news. The gospel is so good. It actually releases humility into our lives. It gives us humility when we realize, like, oh my gosh, Jesus, you did this, not us. You did. We just receive what you've done. And that's also supposed to impart a humility of like, wait a second, I had nothing to do with this other than somebody telling me about it, and I heard them, and that's all I did was hear what someone else explained about this, about Jesus, about the gospel, and that's where humility comes from. But this verse, it's in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse starting in verse 5, it says, likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Yes, all of you be submissive to one another and be clothed with humility. So part of what this is doing is saying, hey, submitting yourselves to elders, submitting yourselves to one another is a part of clothing yourself with humility. It takes humility to be submitted, it takes humility to be in relationship with people above us, with people beside us, with each other. And so submission, humility are important. And then here's why God says this, and here's why it's so important. The next part says, for God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So none of us want God to resist us. None of us want God to go, whoa, 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 hey, let me resist you. And when I read this, sometimes I think, oh man, there's probably a lot of people who God is actually resisting them, and they think it's the enemy, or they think it's their circumstances or their situations. And God is going, hey, you're not walking in humility. Let me resist what you're doing, because then you're going to think this is all you. You're going to think this is all up to you, your credit, your honor, your glory. Well, it's like Gideon, where he's like, no, if I don't take this down to a few thousand more people, down to 300, you're going to think you did this, and there's going to be no humility involved at all. And so God is saying, hey, I don't want to resist you. I don't want to resist people. So what do you need so that I won't resist you? Humility. What do you need?
I
So
love
that
that.
I'll give you grace, I'll give you my ability, my unmerited favor, and my supernatural ability. That's what I want to give you. I don't want to resist you. I want to give you grace. How? Humble, 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 humility. So, but then the crazy part is this part, it just keeps going. So the thought keeps going of like, hey, I want you to be humble. I want to give you grace. And then verse 6 says this, therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. So now he's saying, hey, I give grace to the humble, so humble yourselves. Then he tells us how in verse 7, how to actually humble ourselves. Here's what he says, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. So right here, it's like, wait a second. I recognize humility in a person who's absolutely carefree. So a carefree life is the sign of a person who's humbled themselves. They're not carrying
Wow.
around a bunch of stress. They're not anxious. They're not worried. They don't have a bunch of cares floating around here, because they've given them to Jesus. They've cast them on God, and the other part of this too is like, the secret to a carefree life, the secret to a humble life, which is carefree, is to know how much we're cared for. So people who are stressed, people who are worried, people who are like grumpy, just, everything opposite of the gospel. Here's what God is saying in this. He's saying, look, if we're full of anxiety and cares, stresses, worries, it's the sign of pride. And it's because you don't know how cared for you are. And so when we discover, oh my gosh, you care for me so much, I can give these cares to you. I can live carefree, worry-free, stress-free. I can live joyful. I can live peaceful. Why? Because that's humility. I've humbled myself by casting all that stuff on you because you care for me. And that's humility. And that's
I love it. It's wisdom. It's strategy.
it's all
Come
right.
on.
It's all
People
right.
need it. Yeah. Keep talking.
Here's the crazy thing.
People are going, yeah, they're like, come on. Yes. I know you can't see the comments. The secret to the humble life. Look at the God has laid out strategies and humility and just believing the gospel. And I saw that in Seth. And I'm so stoked that you are. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that's verse 7. Verse 8 then says, be sober, which in our audience, we're okay. We like being drunk in the spirit, overwhelmed by the love of God. His love is better than wine. So we're like okay with that. A lot of the church isn't okay with that. We're okay with that. Like, Holy Spirit, I want to be drunk on your wine all day. Yes. So we like that. But here's what's so interesting to me, because I'm all about like, let's be drunk in the spirit. But what's crazy about this is Peter writing. He says, This is kingdom sobriety. Kingdom sobriety is carefree. So oftentimes, if a person with the natural, only a natural perspective, natural eyes, look at somebody who's carefree, worry-free, stress-free, they think, oh my gosh, they must be on something. They must be intoxicated by something. What's that person been smoking? What are they drinking? What's going on? That person looks like they're not sober because they're totally carefree. So in the spirit, you might be drunk, but this is also saying that's actually true sobriety. It's true sobriety to live carefree. It
Wow.
looks drunk to the natural eye. It looks intoxicated to the natural eye, but in the kingdom, it's actually sobriety. It's actually, you're sober when you live carefree, when you live cared for, when you live humble. That's sobriety. But it looks as though it's total intoxication to a natural viewer. So that's just one quick thought. Be sober
Wow.
because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. So now it goes from knowing we're loved by God, knowing we're cared for, walking humbly with God, not carrying a bunch of stress. And then it goes right into the devil and the enemy of like, hey, why do you want to live sober? Why do you want to live carefree? Because the devil's looking for people he can devour. He may devour. And I like to say, you know, if there's people the devil may devour, that means there's people he may not devour. So he's looking for people. Who can I devour? Who's going to allow me to devour them? Well, in the context here, it's the people who don't cast their cares on him, on God, that the devil can devour. So what's crazy is, to put the whole thing together, it's like, look, the devil's trying to devour lives. He's trying to destroy lives. He's looking for people who are proud to destroy. He's looking for people who are in agreement with him, pride, to destroy. He's like, aha, you're carrying around a bunch of stress. You're prideful. I'm going to destroy your life. I'm going to eat your life. I'm going to ruin your life. Why? Because you won't cast your cares on him. Sometimes I think as believers, we don't realize the importance of this. This is like spiritual warfare at its finest. When we refuse to worry and stress and give it to God, we are resisting the devil from devouring our lives. Like God's not resisting us. We're actually resisting the devil. God's giving us grace. We're resisting the devil by resisting worry, by staying in humility, by staying cared for, by staying carefree, worry-free, stress-free, anxiety-free. That's us fighting off the devil and holding him back. So he looks at us and goes, I may not devour them. I may not touch them. I can't go after them because they won't attach onto worry and stress and fear, and they won't let me pull them out of the awareness of the care of God. So, and then the next verse just says, resist him steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in all the world. So this is basically saying like, look, everybody is dealing with, are you going to worry and stress, or are you going to trust God? Are you gonna take all that on you? Part of why this is prideful, like this sounds crazy to say,
I love it.
but part of why this is prideful is because if I'm carrying around a bunch of stress, if I'm all worried, if I'm living full of anxiety, which all of us, that stuff comes after all of us. That's what this is saying. It's not like everyone deals with this. This stuff tries to come at everybody. The question is, are you going to keep it yourself and play God? Or are you going to give it to God and play you? Like, wait a second, I can't manage all this. I can't handle all this. I can't carry all this. This is not my deal to carry. I need to actually give it to him. If I keep the stuff that God says belongs to him, cast all your cares on me, I care for you. If we keep that stuff, we step into his role, and now mentally we are playing God of our own life. And so we've stepped way beyond idolatry into now I'm playing God, and that's the people the devil can devour. So all this to say, like, we just need to know how much he loves us. We need to know how much he loves us. We need to live in that place. We need to say, wow, you love me so much. I don't need to worry about money. You love me so much. I don't need to worry about these relationships. Now, of course, I'm going to partner with you and do whatever it is you give me to do. but I'm not going to refuse partnership with you and try to do it in my own ideas, my own strength, my own intellect, my own ability. I can't do any of that. I'm going to resist that. I'm going to humble myself, cast everything on you. You care for me so much. Let's go.
Come on.
That was a
Come
lot.
on. No, listen, you can't see the comments. People are saying so good. Yes, submit all our worries and fears to Jesus. And God is so smart because he had you write a book about curing worry God's way.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's always on time, but especially what's happening in the world right now. And people think that if they take on the problems in their brain and they tackle them in their brain, they're doing God a favor, they're handling their business, they're doing what they're called to. And then your peace gets robbed, you move out of trust. And
yeah.
But the pride thing, when this is highlighted that you move into pride, a lot of people aren't even aware of that. And these are like, we would consider them awesome people that love Jesus.
Yeah.
They just been duped,
Yeah.
hoodwinked into thinking that this is the way to go. And I love how God gives you like the mechanics of it,
yeah.
Of what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love the mechanics of it and how you take the scripture and break it down. Because so there, like, when you understand that you're loved, it's more than just head knowledge, right?
Yeah. It needs to be more than that, for sure.
And yeah. And so this comes from walking with God, trusting him, learning how he is, knowing his nature, and knowing the nature of God. And have you gotten this wisdom from watching children?
Definitely. Definitely a lot of this comes from watching kids and working with kids, because I always tell people, like, working with kids, I think I learned just as much, if not more, from them than they learn from me. Another thing that goes along these lines is like, well, the reason I wrote that book and got into this whole like worry, stress, anxiety area and just living this way. I mean, I was all like 15, I don't know, 18 years ago, 2001, I was a drug addict and got radically saved, radically delivered. And up until that point, like, being a drug addict, I was not mentally healthy at all. I mean, I'm snorting coke, I'm eating ecstasy, snorting ecstasy, smoking weed, drinking, smoking cigarette all the time. Like, I'm just obviously not mentally healthy, but Jesus radically saves me, delivers me. And so for many, many years, I was pretty mentally healthy. I got whacked by Georgian when he was there. I was now joyful Christian. So I wasn't just a serious Christian. Now I was a joyful Christian. I was a joyfully serious Christian. And so I was like mentally really good for a long time. And then this whole thing happened with our family where, like, and I've told this story at the school, Georgian, like, I'm gonna ramble a little bit, but I'm gonna come back to this.
You go for it.
But like, I was at Georgian school in the New York City one with Aaron and them a few years ago, and we needed a house. We wanted a house, and Georgian is praying over the offering. He said, God wants you to own a house. He doesn't want you to rent. If you want to own a house, he wants you to own a house because he bought a house and it's you. He owns you. He doesn't rent you. He's not a squatter. He's not renting. I don't remember everything he said, but he basically said, like, Jesus bought himself a home and it's you, and he wants you to own a home. Well, while I was preaching, that was right before I was preaching. While I was preaching, my wife finds a house. She's messaging me this house while I'm preaching at the school in New York City. After we're done, I start looking at the house. My wife's like, we got to put an offer in before you get home because there's already 2 offers on it. We put the offer in, we get it. It's like a miracle house because someone had offered 20 grand more. Someone had offered all cash. but she saw this picture of our family and she gave us the house. So before I got home from New York and Pennsylvania, we had a house. We were in contract to buy a house. Like, it just happened so fast. And I was there. I hadn't even seen the house, but Georgian prayed that we would own a home. We owned a home before I got there. So then what happened was we moved to LA. This is then a year later, we moved to LA, or a couple years later, we moved to LA. I was back in New York, back in Pennsylvania with you guys. And then we were moving again, and we needed another miracle house. I'm like, we need a
I
miracle.
remember this. Yeah.
We need a house again. And so I told the story. I'm like, hey, here's what happened last time. I'm coming to get another house. Like, I'm coming to give and preach and minister, but I need another house again. So we ended up, we applied for this one home to rent. We were going to rent because we were living in LA and we weren't ready to buy. So we're applied for this house to rent, but we're moving out and we hadn't heard back. And they're saying, we're a little concerned about all your dogs. We don't know if we want you to live there. There's some other things on the table, da, da, da. So we're like, well, that's the house we felt the Lord was on for us. And so we actually end up moving out of our home. We have a huge U-Haul filled with all our stuff. We've moved it out, but we don't know where we're going to go. And the time is running out for us renting the truck. So so it's coming down to the wire of, we either get a call that we got the house and we go move everything into our new house, or we call a storage unit and we move everything into a storage unit and we start our hunt for a house over again. So, like, you know, it's cool because, like, sometimes, you know, even hearing you say, like, wow, Seth, I look at you and I see humility and I see a carefree life and I see a life that trusts God. I'm like, how did I learn to do that? Well, sometimes I learned this because I wasn't trusting God, or I had stepped out of trust and into worry and into fear. And you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's like, oh, I learned this one, part of this one, the hard way. You know, so this whole deal, like, we're coming down to the wire, and it's like, you know, we got 3 kids, 3 dogs, 2 horses, a cow. Like, we're trying to move into this house that would work for us and the dogs. Like, everything's in place, except for they're telling us we're not sure we want to give you the house. But as this is happening, like, we're literally down to an hour or so where we have to make the decision. Like, okay, if they don't call in an hour and say we got the house, we're going to a storage unit and starting over. So at this point, I'm starting to not do well for the first time in many years after being delivered from drugs. Now I'm mentally not doing well. I'm leaving trust and moving into anxiety and fear, to the point where it sounds weird for me to say this but I just like to be honest. So it was to the point where I'm driving down the road with Lauren, my wife, and I'm saying, look, the kids are in school, the U-Haul's loaded, we're driving, trying to figure out what to do. And I'm looking at her and I'm saying, Lauren, I'm not doing well. Like, I feel like I'm about to have a mental breakdown. Like, you may need to take me to a mental hospital. Like, this is where I'd got to in my mind. So I'm like, I'm fully away from trust. I'm fully in my own strength. I'm fully in powerlessness because it's all based on this landlord's phone call, whether or not they call us or whatever. So I'm in power. I'm like feeling completely overwhelmed, to the point where I'm saying, I think you might need to take me to the hospital. I don't know what's going on. I'm not doing good. And Lauren just goes, look, we're going to go have lunch and we'll see what happens. So we go have lunch. My friend calls me and says, I just felt something shift in the spirit. This is going to be okay. And then my other friends text me. They were helping us move. And they're like, hey, what's going on with the move? I said, nothing. And they're like, okay, we're going to make declarations. So in 1 minute, I have one friend say something just shifted in the spirit, and 3 other friends say, we're going to make declarations. And I'm over here going, you know what? All right, God, whatever. Like, it's down to the minute now. Like, we've already had lunch, we're eating, and it's down to the minute. Like, we're going to get up from lunch and we're going to go get the U-Haul and stick everything in a storage unit unless they call right now. And so we're over here like, but at this point, I'd also just fully given up. Like, I surrendered. I don't know if the food helped me or what, if Lauren helped me, but I'm like, I'm eating the food. I'm like, okay, whatever. If we have to, if we have to move into a storage unit, it's not the end of the world. We'll figure out a new house. God will take care of it. And so I'm moving out of, I'm quickly moving out of, I'm about to break down mentally. This is all on me. What am I going to do? Oh no, I'm scared. Somebody lock me up. Somebody give me some medicine. I don't know what's going on. And then I'm finally like, okay, whatever. Like, I just surrender. Like, whatever. God, we thought that was the house you wanted us to have. So we're, whatever. If it's not, oh well. If it's a storage unit, oh well. So whoops, sorry. So
Okay.
all this is taking place in minutes. And finally, I'm surrendering to the Lord. I'm just like, whatever, it's in your hands. Like, I've done everything I could do. It's in your hands. And right then, boom, the email comes from the landlord, says, you got the house, go ahead and move in. So we literally left lunch, went to the bank, got the money out, went to the U-Haul, got it, went and unloaded, got it all sorted, and our kids got out of school and got to come to their new house, not to some Airbnb or some hotel while we put our stuff in the storage unit. So, but from that point, I was like, oh my gosh, it only took a matter. It was like, it didn't take long. And a couple of agreements, a couple of poor agreements mentally, and all of a sudden I found myself, after years of not dealing with this, found myself in this place very scary for me mentally. And I'm like, oh, and so that's where I started like, God, I need to research stress, anxiety, worry. So that's where a lot of this came out of, is like, wow, I was not trusting God. I was not giving it to God. I was not casting my cares on him. I was forgetting that I was cared for. I was putting it all on me. I wasn't paying attention to the whole fact of like, oh, my little kids are not stressed at all because they just think daddy and mommy are going to handle it. They don't even, they're not worried at all. I'm like, wait a second. I'm not learning from my children in this, even though God had been showing me. Our 2-year-old at the time is like, hey, God will be like, psst, do you see how he's not worried and he's just playing? Do you see how he's trying to get you to play with him all the time? Because he's not worried about the house. He's not worried about a storage unit. He's not worried about it all. To him, this is a big adventure. And so God was trying to get me to learn from my own child in this, and I wasn't. And so that's where I started like learning this and studying this. But long story, all of that to say, I really learned from my kids. As we were wrapping up this book, it took a year to write the book. As we were wrapping it up, I was writing the conclusion, thinking like, how do I finish this whole book? And the day before I wrote the conclusion, me and my kids are out there, and my kids are like, Daddy, let's play trust fall. And I'm like, okay. So, they stick their hands out and they're like, okay, ready, Dad? I'm like, yes, I'm ready. And they fall off the table, off the bed, off whatever. The higher it is, the better for them. And they're like, hands out. And I'm catching my children, right? And I'm realizing as it's happening, God is showing me this as it's happening. He's like, pay attention to your kids in this moment. And I'm watching, and my son keeps going, Dad, why are you waiting for the last second to catch us? And I said, because it would be no fun for you if I caught you right away, right? So we all know trust fall, like the thrill and excitement is that the father waits till the last second to catch you. So to wrap it all together, I realized I'm playing trust fall with my kids, and I realized, oh, you waited till the last second to give us this house. And I was over here like worried that you weren't going to catch me, instead of going, wee, yay, God, this is more fun, more fun, more fun. I wasn't paying attention to my kids, and I wasn't learning that children enjoy it more when the father waits for the last second. And so I ended up wrapping up the book with something I learned from my own children when I was playing trust fall with them. And I wrapped the whole thing up of like, from now on, my goal is to see life as a kid playing trust fall. Like, you know what? I'm going to climb up on stuff that's really high, and I'm going to fall back right at you. And I know you've never not caught me. You've never dropped me. It looked like you were going to drop me. So I got scared, but you didn't drop me. And now it's a great story of why not to get stressed out, why not to get worried, why when God is waiting for the last second, if I see it correctly, if I see it through the eyes of a child, through the eyes of a trust fall, oh, this is an opportunity for me to strengthen my trust. Oh, this is an opportunity for me to have some excitement, not fear, not worry, not stress. So yes, I learn a lot from I've learned tons and tons and tons from children. That's my most recent lesson. And it happens to do with what we're talking about. And it happens to do with the book. And it happens to do with, yes, he loves to teach me through my kids.
I
I mean,
love it.
even Jesus said, hey, if you even want to enter the kingdom, you got
Yeah.
to repent, you got to change and become like little children. And so one thing I say is like, we adults work really hard to make our kids become adults, and God works really hard to make us adults become like children. And
Yeah.
that was, for me, that was one where he's like, look, just hold your arms up, let me catch you.
I
I,
love it.
I missed it in the moment. I saw it a year later. Oh yeah, we were playing trust fall. Gotcha.
Yeah, and we all get to see it from your life.
Yeah.
So now that, yeah, God's given you understanding, and you know, now that, and you're writing about it, we get to see it, and we get to eat it, and it can become our life, and so before Jesus, I never had compassion for people, let alone children, and
Yeah.
my own children even. And my heart wasn't tender towards kids, or, but since being in love with the Lord, um, I'm I'm fascinated with children, and um, I am like, when like children, they don't have an agenda of like, they don't have their own agenda. They've come to play, to have fun. This one little kid, let me tell you what she did. I was working at the coffee shop, and she goes, um, hey, do you want to come to my house? And yeah, you can spend the night with me. She doesn't even know me. I'm thinking, I want to do that to people. I
Yeah.
mean, we become guarded, and really, I'm just in awe of children. So yeah, just keep sharing, what God shows you just through being a dad, through being just being with children. I love it. Yeah.
It's having my own kids and working with kids for so many years. And I was the same way. I didn't have a heart for kids until I got saved. And then it was like, wow, I don't know how this happened, but he put it inside me, this compassion, this love for kids. But then it turned into, I really need to like learn from them. I really need to pay attention to what he's showing me about him and myself through them. I love it.
Yeah.
Like I've told this a lot. Like I remember, because I've been talking to a lot of people that are about to have babies lately, and I remember when my daughter was first born, and she threw up. She spit up on me for the first time. It wasn't even throw up. It was just spit up, and she spits up on me, and I'm like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I will do anything I have to do. I will go anywhere I have to go, and I will spend any money I have to spend to make sure this daughter of mine is healthy. And the Lord instantly goes, you know what? The people who think I give them sickness, all they really need is a revelation that I'm their father, that I'm a good dad. Because if I, as a dad, would do anything, go anywhere, and spend anything for my kids to be healthy, how much more would he do that for us? And so me knowing, seeing, like it hit me like I already believed God was the healer. I already believed he didn't give sickness. I already believed that. But then to see it through the eyes of, wait a second, why would a dad give a child sickness? He wouldn't. No human dad would. We would lock them up and throw away the key if they're giving their kids sickness, like to teach them a lesson or whatever. Like, oh man. So that was one of the most impacting as well for me times where when I first became a dad, he just opened my eyes to this whole thing of like, oh, wait a second. You'll do anything, go anywhere, spend anything to make sure I'm healthy. You actually did leave heaven.
Yeah.
You traveled quite a distance and spent quite a price for health and wholeness and life. And you, this is really important to you. But I learned that from my own kids and from being a dad. The first moments I was a dad, like that was the lesson I learned. So yeah, I love it. I
I
love
love it.
learning from kids.
I see another treasure. I see tons of treasures. And let me think about how to word this. Okay. You've found the humor in just everyday. You, God shows you humor in parenting. God shows you the humor in what people would think are mistakes. And I saw that you adore them, and God, you've been brought into like the humor of God, the delight of God. Is this right? Am I picking up on this?
Totally.
Come
Yeah.
on, share that. What is that?
I love the humor. I mean, I think when it in the context of family and like humor, mistakes, parenting mistakes, stuff like that, it's like, some of it's like, yeah, there's a lot of parents that beat themselves up because they made mistakes. And it's like that never helps anyone. That never gets us out of our stuff. It's when we realize like, oh, wait a second. You knew I was going to make that mistake in parenting long before I ever made it. You've already taken care of it. You want to help me. The worst thing to do is beat myself up. The best thing to do is go, thank you, Jesus, for taking care of that. Looking at everything through the blood of Jesus, of like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I got upset at my kids, or I was impatient, or I was frustrated, or whatever. I've made mistakes. So to look at that stuff through the lens of the gospel, through the blood of Jesus, go, oh, thank you. Now, how can I do that better? How can I be the parent that you are to me? And that's part of it is, it's like the prodigal son, some of that too in parenting is like, look, the father did not beat himself up for his sons both acting like orphans, living like orphans.
Yeah.
He didn't beat himself up for his one child taking his money and running and destroying his whole. He didn't beat himself up. And then when his kid came back, he didn't beat his kid up. He threw a party for him, and he didn't even mention. He interrupted his son's confession because he was trying to help him repent and become who he really was, the son, not just some servant, not just some slave, not just living on the property, living back in the house. So the father's interrupting the son, confessing his sin to throw the party and show his son true repentance. And I'm like, man, when I see that, it's like, okay, we've all made mistakes as parents. We've all messed up. God doesn't beat himself up because we made bad decisions and he's like, well, I'm a horrible father now. No, he doesn't beat himself up for our poor mistake. He doesn't beat himself up as a father who's had children who do crazy things and mess their lives up. But he also doesn't beat us up when we come back to him and go, hey, I messed up. He's like, let's have a party.
Wow, hold on. You just said something. So yeah, because we're his kids, God doesn't beat himself up because we choose to, we make mistakes and we live crazy wild and have all kind of weird ideas and thoughts. And so God, being our father, doesn't do that to him. And so what's going to happen from this revelation I see? So if God doesn't do that, and us as parents, what that does is it lifts shame and guilt off of us that's not supposed to be on us. And because people can move into a very condemning, like, I know I should have done better, I should have done XYZ. Yeah, okay, I'm catching what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
totally. Okay, yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's where I've found a lot of humor and stuff, is like, okay, wait a second, if my kids make bad choices, it doesn't mean I'm a bad father. It doesn't mean my wife's a bad mom. It doesn't mean we're bad. It doesn't mean any of that. It means my kids are actually free. And actually, I want them in the safety of our home. I want them to make bad decisions. I want them to mess up. I want them to do things that aren't the best for them because they're under the safety of my house. They're under the safety of me and my wife. And so I actually, when they do things that have poor consequences, I'm okay with it because I know, wait a second, if I can give you a safe place to make these mistakes and mess up, I don't take it personal. I don't beat myself up. I don't beat you up. I let you have consequences for your choices. Like, hey, if you come out of bed in the middle of the night, or if you come out of bed, you have to go to your crib. Cool. We're teaching you how to stay in your bed. Hey, if you don't come in when it's bedtime and clean up your toys and come inside, totally fine. Like, I'm actually glad. There's actually a joy in it, a humor in it. If my kids make poor choices at home, like, hey, stay out in the outside as long as you want. It is bedtime, but stay outside as long as you want. It's totally fine. When you come in, that's how much phone time, however much time it takes you to come in, cool. That's how much phone time you lose tomorrow. You got to pay me back with phone time. Or, hey, it's okay if you come out of bed, you just have to go to your crib. So that's helped me. It's helped me to go, wait a second, it's my job as a parent to actually allow poor choices and then present consequences for them in a loving way so that my kids learn to make better choices. So like I want them to learn poor choices and consequences in the safety of my home, because when they leave my home and there's drugs, there's guns, there's gangs, there's money, there's relationships formed around money and around, you know what I mean? Like the world, like I hope you've learned to make bad decisions now in my home so that you're able to make better decisions later. So what that's done is helped me. And I think a lot of times the reason we don't find joy and humor, and it sounds weird to say that, like, it sounds weird to say, I actually like it when my kids make bad decisions. I actually like it when my kid gets a consequence. Why? Well, I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not abusing my kids. It's like, you know what? If you lose a little bit of phone time because you played longer, cool. You're learning, hey, when dad says it's time for bed, if I go inside, I get all my phone time tomorrow. If I don't go inside, I lose phone time tomorrow. What do I actually want? It's up to me. So I'm keeping them powerful, but I'm allowing them to have consequences. But in my heart, it gives me this joy of like, this is actually good for them to make poor decisions now, because I'll give them consequences so they learn every decision I make has a consequence. Bad decisions have bad consequences. Good decisions have good consequences. Now, it doesn't mean God won't help you out when you're in a middle of a consequence. No, he'll help you out. The prodigal son was being, he was in the middle of a consequence, and the father helped him just face the consequence and not get punished and not get, he really helped him out of it. But like, so I actually, it's helped me as a parent to realize, one, it is my job to let them make bad choices, because that's how they learn to make good choices. And this is a crazy verse. It's the craziest verse in the Bible for me, and I don't even fully know what it means. But it says, Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. Now, the reason it's a weird verse to me is because, like, well, Jesus never disobeyed. So how did he learn obedience through the things he suffered? I don't know. I have no idea. No comprehend. I really don't know. Like, one day maybe he'll show me, but I'm like, Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered, but he never disobeyed. But the point is, Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. So my kids learn obedience through consequences. Hey, you're suffering, losing your phone time. Well, you'll learn to come in when it's time to go to bed, because you had a consequence. And so you're learning obedience through the things you suffer, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's helped me it's helped me because I realize, it's my job to let them make bad choices, give them consequences, and fix stuff, clean stuff up, repair things. If there's damage done, repair it, to relationships or whatever. Like, it's my job to train them in that. So it actually helps me find humor and joy and actual, like, this is really good when my kids mess up. And I'm not taking it personal, and I'm not gonna punish them for it. I actually encourage them to make poor choices now. I don't encourage them. I allow them to make poor choices now. Why? Because I'm training them to make good choices later. I'm training them to think, you know what, if I do that, something bad's going to happen. I don't want to do that. If I do this, something good's going to happen. I want to do that. And so I'm training them, but that's helped me find almost a joy and a humor in my kids messing up, making poor choices. But it's also helped me, like, the thing that's helped me find the humor is realizing it's not my job to control them. Because everything I'm talking about right now is, it's my job to teach my kids to control themselves, not for me to control them. And the reason parents punish kids and the reason parents beat themselves up is because they believe a lie. It's my job to control my kids, or it's my job to make sure they make right choices. So we actually protect them from making poor choices. We force them to make the right choice, but then they never learn why to make the right choice. They don't learn obedience. They learn to obey because I said so. They don't learn obedience through the things they suffered or the things that were rewarded to them for good choices. And so part of that is, how do you find humor in mistakes? How do you find joy in messing up? It's like, well, God's not controlling me. God's not going to beat me up. God's not going to beat himself up. It's not my job to control them. So when we take away that whole control issue, it's like, oh, it's actually good for you to make a mistake in my house, because this is how you learn to control yourself. This is how you learn to make your own decisions. This is how you learn to make the right decisions. This is how you learn to obey. And that actually gives me joy. So a mistake gives me joy because I see mistakes and mess ups and poor choices as, this is how you learn to control yourself. And
I
so
love it.
I actually enjoy it. And I feel
I want to share something. Oh yeah. I want to so what I'm understanding you're saying, because I want to make sure I'm understanding, instead of just seeing the right now correcting the behavior, you are strengthening their choice to choose life, and they're growing in discernment because they're choosing life more often, and so that's become your focus. It's for the long haul.
It's for the long haul.
Yeah, come on. Okay, cool. I'm understanding, right?
I'm setting you up to be a healthy human in life. So you have to learn cause and effect thinking. You have to learn poor choices. You know, it's like a controlling parent will, they'll make their kids make all the right choices. And we've seen this, like, let's be honest, we've seen this across the board. We've seen this across the planet. We've seen this, you know, it's like usually the kids that go to church most end up the most rebellious when they get out of their parents' house. Like, or if we're really honest, it's like, unfortunately, we all know the term PK, pastor's kid. Like, oh, you know, potentially a lot of pastors have been more controlling to their children because this isn't just you're behaving correctly. No, your behavior affects my reputation as a pastor. And so I control you more so that I have a good reputation as a pastor, when it's like, oh man, some of the kids that obey the best are really just the most afraid kids. So it's like, you know, you see a lot of times it's like, man, that kid is so well behaved. Yeah, because he's scared to death of getting punished, of losing stuff, of getting hurt. He's so afraid of losing love that he actually behaves perfectly so that he doesn't lose any love. But I'm telling you, in the long run, when that kid turns 18 and moves out, and it's like, my parents can't control me anymore. I have no idea how to make my own decisions. I have no idea how to think through things and make decisions based on the reward or consequence I'm going to face because of it. Then they come out and they go absolutely nuts. Like, why'd that kid go nuts for I'm just preaching to, like, why did I go on drugs for so long? I never learned how to make these decisions for myself. I just was told what to do, and it's nothing against my parents, but like, that's just the culture. What the culture did was like, Christian kids behave. Christian kids don't mess up. Here's how we teach you to make the right decisions, by making you make the right decisions instead of allowing you to make the wrong ones, learning in a safe environment why not to make the wrong ones, and then making your own decisions later because you know how to think for yourself. Why did I go on drugs? Why do so many kids go off the deep end? Why do so many PKs go off the deep end? They were controlled. They weren't allowed to make mistakes. Their parents thought, if you make mistakes, it looks bad on me. So I'll make sure you don't make any mistakes, and I'll control you, control you, control you. I'll teach you how to make the right decisions. Instead of letting you learn obedience through what you suffer, I'll make you learn obedience. And then they get out and they're like, I have no idea how to do this. And I'm really curious about all those things. No one ever let me try. And of course, at the same time, I'm not saying let your kids do drugs so that they learn why not to do drugs. That's not what I'm saying at all. No way. However, if I let you learn why to come inside when it's time to come inside, if I let you learn why to stay in bed or you go to your crib, I'm not teaching you about drugs. I am teaching you about making good decisions overall. And so when drugs are presented, it's like, oh, I don't actually want the consequences for that. So I'm not going to choose that. I don't have to experiment with it to figure out if I do that, that might be a bad idea for me. So I'm not going to do that. Well, how'd they learn to think that way? They learned to think that way when it was bedtime and when it was stay in bed or go to your crib. So I feel like I just rambled a whole lot and pounded a whole lot, but I think
I love it.
you know, that's how I've found like a joy in my kids messing up. For one, it's like, wait a second. If my kids mess up and I stay patient, then my child messing up actually reveals how good of a parent I am. Not their, you know, because most people think if my kid messes up, it reflects that I'm a bad parent. No. If my kid messes up and I stay patient and kind, that shows that I am a good parent. So allowing my children to mess up actually gives me the ability to demonstrate how good of a parent I actually am. You know, one of the things we like to say is for parents is like, wait a second, your child's behavior does not reveal whether or not you're a good parent. Your behavior does.
Yeah.
So if I'm, you know, if my kid's messing up and I'm freaking out, yelling, screaming.
Is this one of your kids? Bring him in.
Hi. Oh, hello. He's not coming. He is.
Oh man.
He's not coming in. He might. He'll probably show up in a little bit. But like, okay, wait a second. So if, you know, if my kid messes up and I yell and scream in the grocery store because my kid is grabbing stuff off the shelf, if I yell and scream, then it's like, wait a second, what am I doing? I'm trying to control my kid's behavior because I think it reveals that I'm a bad parent. But in attempting to protect myself from feeling like I'm a bad parent, I actually stepped into behaving like a bad parent and controlling my kids, yelling at my kids, where if I stay patient, everyone who cares anything is going to go, bro, how did you stay patient when your kid was grabbing everything else? Oh, well, it's not my job to make sure they behave perfectly. It's my job to behave a certain way, even when they misbehave, because I'm teaching them why not to grab stuff off the shelf. I feel like I just unloaded a whole lot, but
you did. But let me recap. Yeah, let me just kind of recap. So from what I understand, you are strengthening their choice to choose life always. And that may look like not concentrating on just the actual behavior and telling them they're wrong, but instead it looks at looking at the long haul and who they are inside. For them to choose life and to understand why they're choosing life is way more important than just saying, hey, you're wrong, stop it, go to your room right now, don't do that, you've embarrassed me. And what I'm also hearing is, if you want to save your reputation in the kingdom, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You can't save your reputation in the kingdom and try to control a life, period. You have, because God doesn't do that with us. So what I'm understanding are those two things. And then I'm understanding you have to have a healthy view of how the Lord treats us, because we get out of control. All of us, you know, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So if you don't see God healthy, you can't see your role healthy or your children's role healthy.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
And
You
that's,
just, yeah.
I mean, there's so much to this. And yep, that's all of it. Like, you know, one of the things for my kids too, it's like, even yesterday, it's like, I'll ask questions to them because I know God asked me a lot of questions, but like, you know, my kids will be fighting and they're like, Dad, he did this or she did that, or, you know, they're just mad at each other. And I'm like, hey, okay, what did you try? Well, I tried to take the ball back. Okay, did that work very well? No, because then he ran away and he won't give it back. Okay, so trying to, you know, so I'm just asking questions, but I'm asking questions to force them to think. Because I could step in and go, give her the ball back, don't take the ball, all of that. But or I could say like, you know, I could step in and force them to do things, or I can ask them questions and help them see it. So my daughter's like, well, how'd that work to take the ball back? Not good. He ran away. Okay, cool. Um, were you just trying to tell him what to do or force him to do something? Or were you talking to him about how you feel? And she's like, telling him what to do. Okay, did that work? No. So you're trying to control him because people have a tendency to try to control things. You're trying to control him. It's not working. I'm glad you see that now. What else could you try? Maybe you should try telling them how you feel. So my kids, a lot of times we work through this stuff. I ask questions. I force them to think it through. I force them to evaluate what's really going on. And then, you know, they'll go up to the sibling and say, hey, when you take the ball, it hurts my feelings. Can you not take the ball? And most of the time my kids are like, oh, here, boom. Like, why? You're not telling him what to do. You're not forcing him. You're not controlling him. You're telling him how you feel, and he's responding to his care for you, not reacting to your attempt to control him. And so
Yeah.
even in that stuff, it's like asking our kids questions instead of stepping in, telling them what to do, forcing them to do certain things. Asking them questions forces them to think and then respond differently.
Yeah.
And those are skills that kids need long term when they're adults, grown up in the business world, whatever they're doing. It's like, oh, these are skills I actually need to question things, think through things, and then make decisions that God would make. You know, where it's like God's like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you for this. I'm gonna let you kill me. You know, while you were still sinners, Christ died for me. Like, wow. And then 2 verses later, like, while you were enemies of God, Christ died for you. Like, oh, he did something for his enemies, and he did something for us while we were still sinners. That's I I want that to be seen in my relationship with my kids and felt, and
Amen. Me
I
too.
want to live in that place with them the best I can.
Hey guys, I know you all want that too. I see your comments. We all wanted Jesus. Hey, make us like a child, God. Yeah, we give you permission. Father, we thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jesus. Yeah, Holy Spirit, teach us how you parent us and teach us how you've parented us and teach us about the funny things that we've done growing up, God, and teach us your wisdom in it and just giving us choice to choose you. Show us the beauty in choice, Jesus. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love you, Seth.
Thank you. I love you. Another thing I realized too with the whole joy in parenting was I've heard parents sometimes say things like, you know, they're rushing out the door. They're in a hurry. They're trying to get everybody out, shoes on, jackets, backpacks, whatever. We're trying to get out the door. And I've heard times where parents are like, we don't have time to play right now. And then I heard the Lord say one time, you don't have time not to play. And so I realized, like, oh, you know, getting out the door on time is important. Having your shoes, your socks, your backpack, your homework done, everything together in the car at a certain time so we can hurry up and get to school. Like, that stuff's all important. But kids respond really well to fun. And so if I can make socks and shoes and backpack and homework kind of a game, we'll actually get out the door much faster than if I say we don't have time to play. No, we don't have time not to play. We'll actually get more out of our kids if we can live life in a playful way, in a joyful way. If we can see, and it's like part of that too is like, wait a second, how do I turn getting out the door on time into a game that's fun for my kids? Because if I do that, it'll be way easier to get out the door. And so that's another element of like joy and humor in parenting is like, I heard that from the Lord. I'm like, man, and eventually I plan to write a book called Family Fundamentals. That fun is part of the fundamentals of a family. And if families aren't having fun together, the foundation, the fundamental parts of it are not stable and not sturdy. And so fun is actually a foundational part of a healthy family because it's fundamentals. And so but that's some of my questions is like, Lord, how do I gamify our getting out the door? How do I gamify going to bed? How do I turn this into something fun so that they actually enjoy getting out the door on time and getting their shoes and backpack and homework and all that stuff together? So that's another element of like bringing in joy.
I love it. Actually,
parenting.
Yeah. So I know you've unpacked so much. People are commenting so good. In a moment, I am going to put your link for your book because if you guys can hear me. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to Curing Worry God's Way. Yep. My friend Sangre is about to put it in the comments. And when she puts it in the comments, the first 4 people that message me, I'm going to buy the book for you. So if you guys want this book, and it kind of covers our conversation today and more, I will buy it for you, but you have to message me. And I had to pre-order mine, so I know we have to pre-order it. But if you put, hey, I want this book in the comments on live, I'm going to buy the 4 first books, Curing Worry God's Way. So just let me know you want it, and I'll message you and send you the book. But yeah, I was going to say something. I didn't even know I was playing a game with my son. I didn't know that. And what you're telling me is I had a strategy from God about playtime when he went to bed.
Yeah.
Because, when they go to bed, they got to use the bathroom. They want water. They can't sleep. They want to wrestle.
Yes. They want to do everything except sleep. Yes.
And the more... And the more I tried to say, hey, you need to go to bed. You need your sleep. It seemed like it became longer. Yes. Yeah. And so when I began to enjoy the fort process, because he'd make the fort out of the covers when we're going to bed, he'd want to tell jokes, lay on top of my face, and, yeah, the whole thing. And so when I began to just I didn't even know that was part of playing. But it actually made me not freak out. So yeah, thank you. I love it.
Yeah, usually we have a saying when we bought our cow, the guy that sold us the cow, he said, just remember, with cows, slow is fast. And my wife told me that. I thought, man, that's the same with kids. The more we try to rush kids, the slower they go. The more we relax and chill out, the faster they move. With kids, like cows, slow is fast. If I put on a bunch of pressure, hurry up and go to bed, usually it takes longer than if I just lay there a couple minutes, snuggle them, whatever, play, enjoy it, and then leave. Boom. They're like, well, how'd they fall asleep? I wasn't trying to make them fall asleep. I wasn't rushing them. I was taking my time, and that took all the pressure off, and now my kid's asleep. So that's a lesson I learned from a cow, not just from a kid.
I love it.
I learned from all of it. Oh, man.
Okay, so we are wrapping up, and we just bless you, Seth. I'm going to watch this over and over again, and it's become rich. Thank you for feeding us today. And so, yeah, we just say more. God, multiply Seth. Multiply the entire family unit, Jesus. The entire family unit, what you're doing, you're setting Seth up as an example of your family unit in the earth, and you're showing what Jesus looks like in the entire family unit. You're showing how you do life.
Wow.
in Seth's family. God, let them be the role model in the earth. In the name of Jesus, multiply it greatly. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, I'm gonna end. And so we love you guys. Bless you.
I
Yeah.
love you all. Love
So
you all.
let's see.